I don't know if we can pick up any of that sound here, guys. No sound on it, but the chopper just setting down. The president has been away from home since Friday at about this exact time.
A few brief moments, but we will
All right, I've got 6 o'clock. Looks like we do have a quorum so far.
At the White House, he was released.
So I'll call the meeting to order. October 5th, 6 o'clock, Winnebago County Republican Caucus. We'll do roll call. Mr. Zentak.
Here.
Mr. Booker.
Here.
Ms. Crosby.
Here.
Mr. Buchita.
Here.
Mr. Billich.
Here.
Mr. Webster, are you up yet? I see he's just now getting logged on. And I'm also here. Either way, Paul Arena's logging on. We still have a quorum. But Webster and Arena, they are logging on now, it looks like. I'll give him just a few seconds to get going. Hello, Mr. Arena.
Hi, everyone.
I'm here.
All right, Mr. Webster, we'll get moving then. Look at the board agenda. Unless anybody else wants to talk about anything else, we'll skip down to the unfinished business with the appointments. Is there any more discussion on the appointments? I think the majority of us are still willing to allow them to lay over or remain on the table, rather. If no other discussion on that, we'll move on to standing committee reports. First is Finance Committee. And I'll run through that quick. I don't see Schultz. Schultz does it so much better. There's a resolution authorizing settlement of a claim for $180,000. Pretty sure that was unanimous. The other item is a budget amendment, 2020-024, Highway County FedEx fee transfer to be laid over. And the other one is the tax levies to be laid over. Are there any questions on what's in finance coming up? Mr. Buchita?
Thank you. Yeah, you know, Keith, I don't think we did take any action on that on that lawsuit, did we? I thought we came out of closed session and took no action. Am I mistaken?
I think we came out of close, and you may be right. My recollection, we came out of closed, we made the motion, we passed it, and then we went back to closed.
Well, I forgot.
Oh, yeah, behind me. Does anybody else here from finance remember for sure?
I thought we came out of closed session because we got done talking about that issue and went right back into closed session to talk about a different issue. I don't think we ever took a vote.
I think you're right, John.
You might, I'll call Mr. Salgado.
Yeah. In any event, do we need that vote in order to bring it before the board? Is that a prerequisite?
Typically they have came through committee. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So if we still have time to get, I think for Thursday.
Well, that hadn't been actually settled yet, was it? They were just looking for advice and consent of the board. I don't think the issue has actually been settled, has it?
And I'm not prepared to answer 100%. I've been out of touch since Friday, so
Okay.
I could speculate, and that's all the best that I can do.
Okay.
But you bring up a good point. I made a note. I'll call Mr. Salgado,
Okay.
find out the answer. Thank you for
Very
that.
good.
Is there any discussion on other two items in finance? Seeing none, we'll move to zoning with Mr. Webster.
Okay, we have nothing on zoning. When the committee schedules and that were, county board agenda was published last Friday, they mistakenly put some old business on there we'd already taken care of. And so, no, we have nothing coming in for zoning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Webster. Economic development, Mr. Billich, have you anything?
Currently we have nothing. I am working on a resolution, and actually I'll take up a minute if I may on that one. Basically we may end up bringing it up. It will be something that I wanted to actually bring up through your committee, which we've been in discussion about. However, I'll bring it up just in case to inform my committee that we may end up having a meeting right before county board on Thursday. Still waiting to find out if it's going to be ready or not. The resolution is basically going to be modeled around the fact that we are going to have a resolution where the county board is standing against the health department taking any action against the closures of restaurants during this time and under this new restriction that coming from, actually, I was present at the meeting on Thursday, where a lot of cases were made, and that the lawyer that actually represents other establishments within other counties and has actually informed us about the operations in other counties as well, which is basically, since we do not have control over the health department to tell them yes or no that they need to do this or need to do that, we do, however, can stand together as a county board to tell them that we are against them taking action, affirmative action, and making restaurants close inside. Now, that is also with the understanding from a lot of the restaurateurs that they would have been totally okay with the restriction that was given to banquet halls and other facilities where you can have meetings of up to 25 people. Every single establishment was more than willing to abide by that, still have their patio open, but still allow 25 people inside. Currently, right now is the peak of the restaurant and bar industry, especially in regards to being able to go out and watch your football game while you have a meal and a drink. And that's one of the other things. We've already, that industry itself is the most regulated industry with the health department. When you talk about and compare with gas stations and such, where you have thousands of people a day touching the same gas handles, the same drink cooler doors, all other things. And then you go into a restaurant where they're actually cleaning tables after anybody ever sat there, chairs, they're cleaning all the slot machines immediately after any usage. For an industry that is regulated, especially in the cleanliness of the establishment, I think that it's not only do I think, but that the community has come together. All the restaurant owners and establishment owners have also come together because they don't think that they can make it through another closure. And for them, there's a lot of smaller establishments that don't necessarily have the room or capacity to have the big tents, nor could they afford the big tents and the rentals that come with them. And as we've actually displayed, we actually started off in our establishment ourselves. We ended up purchasing our own tents, and they were the smaller pop-up tents, and those get blown around by the wind so fast, and we've gone through hundreds of dollars trying to replace them, that now we actually spend more than we spend about $2,000 a month to have our two big tents outside and have them heated. So it's a very costly endeavor. And in our county, other counties are actually affording to pay for those, offset those costs. They pay for a portion of it, percentage of it, if not all of it. And for us, I mean, I'd rather see our county board standing together and say, hey, we don't want you guys to go after these restaurants because they're already struggling and suffering as it is. They're already being incurred costs that they should not have necessarily had to be incurred on without other kind of help. And on top of that, I mean, we're at a stage where now restaurants slowly have been closing up, and the number is up to at least 5 locally within our county. So I'd like to see that more of our restaurants stay open, and I'd like to see that we're not going to be losing that industry, especially since the majority of it is locally owned.
Any comments from Mr. Billich? Mr. Arena, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Billich, is it the Winnebago County Health Department that's doing this, or is it the state?
The state sends down the mandate. It's the IDPH that kind of guides the health department on what they want to be done. And it's from the state that the rules come from the governor on what he wants done. Now, what we did have a meeting on is actually these rules that he's giving aren't actually technically law. So in reality, I mean, if it comes down to it, there is some restaurants that have obviously taken the legal route within other communities and other counties, where those counties basically said, well, then it doesn't really matter. I mean, if it's not a law. But at the same time, the health department, the purview that they fall under is the county health department board as well as the IDPH. So they technically, even though we control their budget and we deal with their budget, we don't actually control what they actually do.
Okay, so they have the discretion to act differently, right? If they chose to.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And just to add another clarification, if I may, I do want to actually add a whereas in that resolution that we would actually be instructing our state's attorney's office that we don't want them to proceed with the prosecution if it came to that against the restaurant.
Ms. Crosby.
It's always been Dr. Martell's position that she's obligated to follow the state mandate. So we won't get any give on the health department whatsoever. So just to throw that out there.
Sure, thank you. Mr. Booker? You're still on mute.
I agree with, I'll be in support of this resolution. I agree with Mr. Bilic. The numbers just don't justify, and their method to the madness and the way they figure this out just doesn't, there isn't any logic to it. What's a high rate in McHenry County just isn't the same for Stevenson and Carroll and Winnebago counties, especially Western Winnebago County. And when you look at the recovery rate, the hospital bed, the ICU bed availability is up over 55%. The IDPH and Winnebago County Health Department, they list the nursing homes as hot spots. I didn't see one restaurant or bar listed as a hot spot. So I just think it's unfair. And when we start closing down the large corporate nationwide corporate box stores, then I believe we've got something to take a look at. But these people have a livelihood, they have families to support and feed, and I'll be supporting this resolution. Thank you.
May I-
Go ahead, Mr. Webster.
Yes. This virus it is the real deal. Okay, we know that. And we know it can be deadly. We know that as well. But we also know that smoking cigarettes can be deadly. And people have to make a personal choice in life. And you should be allowed to make those choices. Now, knowing that cigarettes are bad for you, they could kill you, and you still want to smoke them, hey, that's on you. Now, knowing that the virus is contagious and it too could be deadly, but you want to be around a bunch of people to catch this, that's on you. So you don't have to go to these restaurants if you don't want to, but I don't think it's right for someone to tell you you cannot, just like they tell you you cannot smoke that cigarette. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. Is there any other discussion on this? I'll also be voting in favor of this. I agree with what Mr. Booker said. If the big boxes can stay open, we shouldn't be penalizing the small restaurants and bars. I've talked to several people that are of the opinion that they still won't patronize a restaurant because that's the right choice for them, and I respect that. I think that's what a model we need to look at. You know, if you are personally responsible to make yourself safe. So if that means not going out, then don't go out. But those of us who are okay going to a restaurant that's been cleaned, the table's been wiped, everything is on the up and up, paper menus getting thrown away. If you're willing, if you're comfortable with it, we should be allowing it. Mr. Arena, I see you had your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to share with everyone something I read in a Facebook post by a gentleman who he's retired now, but I think in his career he had some type of, engineering or scientific type of profession. And he pointed out something that I think is important for us to keep in mind. We're making these decisions based on positivity rate, so the number of people who test positive. And he pointed out that the people who are being tested are either feeling sick or have been in contact with people who are sick. So that isn't an accurate representation of the population as a whole. He said if we were monitoring the condition of our community, we'd have to do a random sampling of just people, that are out there. And then you're really getting an indication of how much virus is out there among the general population. So I guess I hadn't thought of it in that way. And I thought that was a good thing to keep in mind, that maybe the criteria that they're using to make this decision isn't really valid. And I think that gives further justification to Mr. Bilic's proposal. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this item? See, now we'll move on to operations. We'll have 4 items for operations this week. First will be a resolution authorizing the chairman to execute a lease space 555 North Court with the health department. That's mostly for the contact tracing. The health department's paying for that out of a grant that they had received. So there's going to be people, there's going to be carpet replacement and another upgrade as well. I can't remember what the other upgrade was. Is there any discussion on that resolution? Seeing none, we'll move down to the,
Is that no cost to us?
correct. Everything is being paid for through the grant that the health department received. And I think it was $14.25 per square foot is the lease rate, which maybe Miss Crosby I think that's pretty reasonable for that type of space, 1425 square foot. I don't think they're.
Absolutely. That's on point. It's not too high, not too low.
Excellent. The next resolution establishing a HIVAC scheduled service agreement. This was amended in committee to remove the old public safety building. We would rather do something different there than sign on to a multi-year maintenance contract for something that we need to get rid of anyways. I didn't write down the number. Are there any questions on the HIVAC scheduled service agreement? See, now we'll move down to renewing garbage collection services contract. Miss John, she did send it out to a couple different places. It passed. Did we change that one, Mr. Rena? Because we had a question about one of the pickups. No? Okay.
The rate was high for one of the buildings, and she said it's because they use it to, like, for extra services, like they have extra cans there and stuff for recycles. It might have been the courthouse or something, but no, I think we'd have passed without a problem.
And then the fourth item that's not on this current agenda, hopefully the chairman will update it tomorrow, but Wednesday night, we're going to have an operations committee meeting at 6. And the item for that meeting will be a resolution opposing the executive question on the ballot. But it'll be Wednesday night at 6. Again, that meeting hasn't happened yet. Anything anybody wants to add to that, Mr. Arena?
I also saw a revision to the agenda for Wednesday that they added in something about the clerk's hours. I just saw that right before this meeting started.
I'm with you. I did see that as well. And I just got back onto the internet, so I'm not sure what that means yet.
Okay.
Mr. Booker?
Thank you, Chairman. I had a couple of neighbors approach me saying that they saw something on Facebook or social media or something about the executive, the question on the ballot about executive government having to do with adding home rule.
If I understand it properly, there's a way to do it which does not include home rule. And that's the way that, Ms. Crosby?
Just to clarify, because we're non-home rule now, the state statute requires that we say non-home rule in the referendum. It's already predetermined language. If we were home rule, it would say home rule, but we're not. Make sense?
Thank you for that clarification. Any other discussion operations? See none, we'll move down to Public Works. Mr. Kelly, can you help us out with this? 3 items.
Yes, I can. Hang on here just a second. First, we have a resolution authorizing the award of a bid for Rockford Township for the resurfacing of Black Hawk Road between Illinois Route 251 and 20th Street. That's no cost to the county whatsoever. It's all funded by the township. Second, we have an ordinance establishing a park zone speed limit on Windy Lane from Harrison Avenue to Heidi Drive and Cherry Valley Township. And to go along with that, it's a resolution authorizing the installation of stop signs at the intersection of Wendy Lane and Darlene Drive in Cherry Valley Township. Everything passed unanimously. It's a good idea. All this is happening alongside of a park down behind
I think behind the Muslim church.
I was thinking, I'm forgetting where it's at now. I'm sorry.
Nope. Thank you very much. Is any questions for Mr. Kelly? Seeing none, we'll move on to public safety with Mr. Booker.
Thank you, Chairman. We just have one item to bring forward. There were 3 items on the Public Safety Committee agenda for the meeting last week, but 2 items were removed. So I'll have one item, and that's a resolution approving a subcontractor agreement for the Department of Justice Violence Against Women grant that passed unanimously. So it's a grant, Department of Justice grant, and it's a resolution to approve it. So that's all we have for public safety.
Outstanding. Any questions for Mr. Booker? Seeing none, we'll move on to personnel and policies. Is there anybody from that committee? I see that the resolution for the holiday on November 3rd is on here again for reconsideration. I don't know any more than just what those words there say. Is any?
If I may.
Sure, Mr. Webster.
All right. Paul might want to weigh in on this as well. I haven't talked to Fiducia, but as you know, I went off, like a bottle rocket on this, having to pay people for a day off just to vote. I think it's wrong, but it's a mandate from the state. And so I was really surprised when I argued against it for my supporting in that at Personnel and Policy Committee. And then I did again once at the board meeting there. And I was surprised that most of the board members felt the way that I felt about this. However, it is a mandate from Springfield. And so apparently it's back on there now because we have to acknowledge that, yes, we will pay people for that day off or something like that. I don't understand the full mechanics about it, but that's the deal. When the fat man in Springfield said, we got to pay, we got to pay. So perhaps Paul wants to weigh in on this and with some further information, but I'm still very pissed off about this. When we had to come up with the $900,000 to plug the hole in the budget there, and at the very same time, we had to pay $200,000 for this day off for people. So that made that 900,000. Think about it. That made a $1.1 million hole in the budget. And so it just gets dumber all the time with this crap we have to, put up with out of Springfield. I'm just so pissed. And I wonder to myself, because after we got the confidential email from state's attorney, this happened back in June, apparently, that this edict was put onto us there. Why didn't any of our elected officials from Springfield, and I'm talking about Severson, Stottleman, Cabello, Maurice West, who else? Sosnowski. I wonder how any of them voted on this issue in Springfield. And I wonder why none of them gave us a heads up on this, because we were all caught off guard on this. And yeah, I was pissed then and I'm pissed now. Thank you.
You bring up an interesting point, Mr. Webster. I know they haven't been in session often this year at all. I wonder if it was an executive decision by the governor and the legislator body did not get a chance to vote on it.
I don't know why they didn't, but I would think that some of them must have heard something about it and failed to convey that to us. I don't know. It just, yeah, I don't know. I'm so pissed. Thank you.
I strongly agree. I'd support an extra hour for lunch that day to make accommodations to go vote as opposed to a whole day off. Mr. Arena, did you have your hand up?
Wait. Can I one more?
Sure.
By the way, a day after our vote there on that, and I talked to Lori Gummo, and she had a question for me about how some things went down out of a committee vote there or something. Anyways, so I asked her, I said, so now you guys all have to work that day. And she said, yeah. I said, so now what's the news on how you're going to handle that? She said, well, I'm not sure how they're going to handle this. I said, I can tell you how that's probably going to work. You're going to have to give people comp hours to comp that day off for them as well, to equalize things. And so it just, the whole damn thing it's just too crazy for me to even want to understand. Thank you.
Yeah, and I believe as an employer, you have to allow time for your people to vote. You know, the polls are open from 6 until 7 p.m., 7:30, something like that.
Sure, sure.
You
But-
have to allow people, you know, if
But
I'm
the people,
working a 12-hour
but the
shift,
people in the clerk's office have to work that day, so they'll get the whole day off somehow or another. You follow me?
we'll go Mr. Arena and then Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My position on this is if we don't have a choice, why are we voting on it? If we have no discretion, you know, am I supposed to sit there as a member of this board and validate something the state did? I'm still going to vote no because it doesn't matter, right? If they can decide what's going to happen here, my vote, you know, doesn't mean anything. And I disagree with that. And you know, I don't even understand why it's come before this board. So that's my take on it.
Thank you. Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Chairman. It's like voting for prevailing wage, just something you gotta do. It's state law.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Doesn't mean we like it. I agree with Mr. Arena. That brings us to the end of the agenda. Is there anybody that has anything for the new business? Anything else they wish to discuss during this caucus? Seeing none, how about a motion to adjourn?
I got that.
Mr. Webster, seconded by Mr. Booker. Mr. All those,
Chairman,
yeah, Mr.
I
Zins.
may not be at the meeting tomorrow night because, or I should say Thursday night, simply because I'll be coming back from Michigan on a business trip. I'll try and get back before 6, but I may not be there.
Okay, yep. Hopefully we get to see you. Good luck and be safe. All those in favor, bye-bye,
I'll
safe.
be in the east by Detroit. I gotta go.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Good night. Thank you for your time.